What's up, everybody? Today we've got the XP Ranger 900 in the shop, and we picked this machine up and it was stated as not running. Buyer didn't really know exactly what was wrong with it. This is going to be a parts machine, but this video is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to try to take you along and show you what happened with this engine, or I guess we'll figure out what's wrong with it. Missing the gas strut here, you can see, but they said it doesn't run, so let's turn the key on. This is a higher mile machine. Let's see, what do we got? 1,705 hours, 14,574 miles. So let's just turn this thing over and see what it does. Alright, so she's spinning over quite fast, in my opinion. Sounds like it's low in compression, or we have a timing issue. So one thing I've found on these engines, at least with the higher mile ones such as these, this cam chain tensioner right here, this one's been replaced with an aftermarket one, it looks like, but those are hydraulically controlled, and if you run low on oil, you don't keep up with your oil changes, those don't work properly, you lose the tension on the timing chain, which then in turn allows the timing chain to wear irregularly on the crankshaft or jump time, and then you have major engine problems. So we're gonna see if that's what's going on with this one, or if it just needs a a top end or something. But this could be something that you've got going on, so if you want to follow along to see if this is what you've got or if it's something else. But first thing we're gonna do is pull this box off and start getting some of this stuff out of the way so that we can get this engine out of here and do a little tear down on it. Let's figure out what's going on. Alright, so as you saw, we took a little compression test on the old cylinders here, and we didn't end up with much. 50 and 10 or something terrible, so there's not much there. There's either a hole in a piston, or the valves are open, or something's going on. Also, make sure you don't just clean your air filter, change your air filter. You got to clean your intake too. This is not the first Ranger throttle body I've seen that looks almost that bad. This one's worse. It's got like 1/8 of an inch of dirt piled up in the bottom of it. Like, just terrible. Like, if that's getting in there, it's ruining the engine as well. So Not cool. I'm gonna continue to pull the clutch cover off so we can access the clutch, and I'm gonna possibly attempt to try to take a leak down test on this to see where the leakage is going, if it's going into the crankcase or through the valves. It should tell us a little bit before we tear it apart, so that'll be next. Let's get these clutch covers. Alright, check it out. We got the clutch cover off there, and I pulled off the valve cover here so we get a better look in here. Here we've got our cam chain right there and our camshafts, and we've got this spark plug out. But watch this cam chain. I'm going to turn the engine with the clutch nice and slow. It's like jumping. I don't know if you saw that, but that's kind of interesting. So we're going to try to put a cylinder here at top dead center and try to do a leak down test and see if it holds any pressure, but I'm not too hopeful. Alright, so we've got our engine here set to top dead center on this cylinder. Both of these lobes on these cams here are not pushing on the valves, so the valves should not be open, and the piston is all the way up. So if we put pressure in that cylinder, it shouldn't leak. It should hold pressure if it's good, which clearly it's not because we don't have any compression. But we're gonna screw in, here we've got a leak down tester. Got it hooked up to the air already here, so we're at 0 for leak down right now. We're not connected, and we've got a bunch of pressure in there, so when I connect this, it should stay in a good range if it's good. And we're instantly going to 100% leak down. So it's not holding any pressure very well. So in order to figure out what's wrong, you got to figure out where the air is going, and I can feel a pretty good draft coming out of the exhaust right now. So either we've got bad exhaust valves, a bent valve possibly. I don't feel anything on the dipstick. I guess a smoke test would be the best way to check for all this, but can't feel anything on the intake. But I can hear a significant amount of air leaking out through the exhaust right now, and then you can feel quite a draft coming out back here. So I'm assuming we have a bent exhaust valve, but once we pull the head off, we'll figure that out for sure, and we will check the other cylinder here too. Alrighty, so we switched the spark plug, pulled it out of that cylinder, put it in this cylinder, so this cylinder is sealed up, theoretically, even though it's not, because we have an exhaust leak there. But so we're going to put the leak down tester down this cylinder now. I rotated the engine. Neither one of these lobes are pushing on the valves, and the cylinder, or the piston, is all the way up in the cylinder, so it should theoretically be sealed. Let's connect in our leak down tester, and we're also instantly going to 100% leaking. And I can hear it going through the exhaust again. I mean, it's pretty loud. Pretty good draft coming out of the exhaust here, so not feeling anything there. And I guess you're not going to feel anything coming out of this dipstick if there was crankcase pressure, because the valve cover is off here, so it could all be just coming up through where the timing chain comes through here. So that's not a perfect test, but you know, we're definitely getting some exhaust leakage, so we know we have a problem there, as well as the cam chain. You can see it jumps all over, so that's interesting. So now that we've done that, get a little bit of idea of what's going on there, we can go a little further on tearing some more stuff out of here and get this engine out here and tear it apart and see what it looks like. All right, just pulled the intake here. Here is hopefully a little better look at this thing and how nasty it is. I mean, timing chain problem or not, that's going to cause some problems. Got all the clutch covers removed, all the intake removed, all the wiring unplugged. We've got the coolant unhooked and drained from the engine for the most part. There'll still be some in there when we get it out, but now we need to drain the oil. I've got the engine all disconnected as far as mounting goes. So drain the engine and set it on the workbench. And we can start popping that thing open to see what kind of damage there is. Alright, we've got everything off the engine. We've got the oil drained. And now we need to wrestle this thing out of here and get it up on the workbench. Alright, you can see we've got the engine up here on the workbench. Pull some of these small parts off of this thing and see if we can determine exactly what's wrong with it or why it failed. Appears this cover has been off before, one other time at least, judging by the different sealant, silicone stuff they have on here. Ignition cover. Pop the flywheel off here. Came right off. So here's our timing chain coming from up at the cams. The tensioner is still in there, but look at all this slop we've got here. It's either not working properly or something's going on, but looks like we got in here in time. Well, no pun intended on that, but this gear on the crank here still looks good. I don't see any excessive wear or any missing teeth. That's usually what happens when these start to get floppy and start jumping. So let's stand this up and pull this tensioner out. It appears to be either stuck or maxed out or not adjustable without using this. Alright, so that's basically a lock nut, and this just threads in and out. Okay, so this is a manual tensioner and it's not set tight enough. Okay, so either that chain stretched and this didn't get readjusted and we must have skipped time, which I haven't checked because this seems to be functioning. The ones I've seen, I guess there's a lot of different ones. Some are hydraulic, some are like this, and then some are like this but also spring loaded, so they continuing to keep tension. All right, let's just pull this head off. It looks pretty normal. Alright, so the head is off. Cylinders actually look decent as far as visual inspection goes. The cylinder head here, I was expecting to see one or a few of these exhaust valves either bent, stuck open, or something along those lines. But everything in here looks pretty decent upon initial inspection. I don't see any major signs of catastrophe. So I don't know if maybe we had some definitely dirty oil in here. But I don't know if we had some, just if they were sticking open a little bit. I guess I'm gonna have to pull these valves out and try to see if they're bent at all, check the seats, and we'll get a better idea of what's going on there to see if this is a dirty engine issue or if it's a timing issue. It seems like it jumped time as far as when the engine's turning over. It didn't have any compression and it was opening the exhaust valves at the wrong time and letting out the compression. But as far as why the leak down tester leaked out the exhaust valves when none of the cam lobes were pushing on the valves, that would indicate one of the valves was stuck open without this being down. It was just stuck down a little bit, or it's not fully seating shut, which would be a bad valve seat or something. So I'm gonna have to pull these valves out and have a little look-see. All right guys, so I'm looking at this a little bit more. This timing chain just looks terrible. I mean, it's like all kinky and doesn't want to straighten out and doesn't flex and bend very well. So this is a higher mile Ranger, and I'm assuming this timing chain is just junk. It just looks like crap if you ask me. So what I think happened is this engine just skipped time due to a stretched out timing chain and a timing chain tensioner that was not set tight enough. And then when I was trying to do the leak down test, the exhaust valves must have been pushing slightly on these exhaust valves, or the exhaust valve rocker lobes on the cams must have been pushing on these exhaust valves a little bit, and I didn't realize it, and that's why I was getting leakage out the exhaust, because I just poured some water down these exhaust ports. Nothing's coming out the valves. I realize compressed air is going to find its way a little bit easier than water, but without taking the valves out yet. That's just a little quick test to show that they're not stuck open. So I'm still going to pull the exhaust valves out and have a look at the seats and everything, but yeah, she was just out of time. If I'm wrong, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think it is, if that's not it. Otherwise, I'm going to pull this head apart. Alrighty guys, so we're here the next day. I had poured that water down those exhaust ports, remember? And both of these, or this side of the cylinder over here, this is drained completely out. This one, it's just barely weeping through yet. I don't know if you can see those drips of water coming out of the valves there. This side, completely drained out. There's still some water in this side on this valve, but I guess that just shows that the seats on there are not the greatest condition right now. Probably all the dirt it sucked through here. So I'm going to clean the cylinder head up, and then we're going to pull the valves on this and get a better look. Alrighty everybody, we've got the cylinder head cleaned up here a little bit, and I pulled the exhaust valves out, and they don't look too terrible despite just some severely dirty runners there. So I think we just had a chronic case of some carbon buildup, and these things need a little bit of a valve job. So not terrible. I don't see any like damage, so to speak. They all look very usable, but yeah, change your oil, change your air filter, and hopefully you can avoid a situation like this. If you think you know what exactly was the cause of this engine problem besides the timing chain, or if you think it is just the timing chain, leave a comment below. I'm sure everybody would like to know. Thanks for watching.